Hey guys, how's it going? It's 11:59 on May 29th, 2021, just before midnight. And I was just getting ready to wind down tonight, and I came across something that kind of blew me away when I saw it. And I, once again, I kind of lost interest for a bit. It's not because I don't love trains. I still love trains. I still want to do trains. It's because, I don't know, it just didn't, I always put myself in the position of, okay, I get excited a little bit about the position of where it's coming and what I can make it out of. And I'm psychoanalyzing myself, maybe psyching myself out, maybe coming up with excuses why I can't do it, maybe talking myself out of it. I have no freaking clue. But I came across something today that this just blew my mind when all of a sudden I saw it. Now, I don't know if I'm going to have any... No, that's about all I get. Okay. There are 2 audio listeners on the scene. Please ensure... Okay, well, that's fine. I don't know what the audio listeners are or mean or whatever, but that's fine and dandy. But I came across this beauty over on the asset store, and I do go into the asset store once in a while. Especially as lately, because I find some interesting things in there. I found some stuff with the dispatch stuff that I was working on, and I thought I was going to continue to go there. But then I came across this one right here, and it's called the Flat Card Kit Kit 1 Vehicles, and it's a free asset. It was released back in 2017. Now, at first glance, I was thinking, okay, well, I see the tracks there. I'm like, okay, well, he's just got a bunch of flat car vehicles. I don't know what I can do with them. They're not necessarily, how would you say, today's, and they're not exactly up to modern standards, let's say. So I'm not too sure what I can do with them. And then I go a little bit deeper into this, and I load it up. So I load this up, and sure enough, it's got everything. It's got the tracks, which are nice. I've been looking for some tracks. I mean, it's railroad tracks. If I can run a train on it, I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to use this, but at least to get some of my ideas running, that's a start. Once I have something, and I don't give a damn if the engine's just a freaking stand through box. It's got different types of track buffers. All look pretty cool, I guess. I don't have any curves here, so I'd have to, work my way around that, or try to play around with the material, try to find a way to do that, because I'm not sure how I'm going to do a curve asset, let's say, like for curves and switches and all that other stuff. I haven't figured that one out yet. I mean, eventually I'm going to have to crack open Blender and say, okay, I got to do something. But at least this gives me some inspiration to try a few things. And it's visual. And this is, I mean, these assets are pretty cool. I was looking inside these pipes there, like totally neat stuff. Like, I mean, yeah, the boxes, you see them on the outside. You see different things here. It includes the bogies, which are always nice because if you got those going and they work and they can roll, which I haven't really tried yet. I don't know what I can do with it, like write different code, just bring them in, try different, like I don't know what box 1.1 is. Okay, so that's that side. Originally I think it was like box car, it's just a box. which is fine. It's an old time set. I'm probably not going to ultimately use this, but at the same time, it's gonna get the ball rolling where I have something visual to look at and get a pretty good idea as to what I can do. And then from there, take it from there and try to figure out, okay, I mean, the couplers are generic, good enough. I mean, they're nice. I'm not saying they're generic. I'm not trying to, there's no 6 axles for 6-axle power and all that other crap, but it doesn't need it. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then, over here you got, I think you had some track over here. You had those cars over here, and then you had another bunch over here, different things. Barrels, I don't know what that is, machinery or something. Looks kind of cool. Pipe loads. This is some pretty cool stuff, I think, anyways. Some skids. Some wooden skids. So, I mean, it's a nice little pack, and I was looking at that, and I was just like, holy cow, that's neat. So yeah, flat car kit comes, what does it come with? That's the different materials. So you got ground, rail, road. Is that the flat car kit 1? Vehicles, assets. So you got box, buckets. And it's got the various parts right there. You got the bogie, the car body, various flat cars. I don't know what that is. Planks. I'm just looking at the different things. Other stuff. I don't know what that is. Oh, it's a rope or something like that. The pallets, the pipes. The sleepers I haven't looked at either, but tank. There's a tank. Okay. I didn't quite see that. Maybe that's that. Maybe that's what that wooden thing was there. Wooden frame. Oh, these are my own little prefabs. Boxcar, engine, track scale. Okay, so that's different. I've been using this to, like, I should be renaming this to, like, a little bit of a test area or whatever. So, it's got an LOD background. I kind of like that. I think that's important to have that fog effect. I don't know if that's in the scene. It might be baked right into the scene. I'm not too sure. But I mean, beautiful detail on this kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's pretty cool. And I mean, the rail, I mean, it's definitely nice. I can make a nice size yard. Yes, I would have to probably MacGyver the yard tracks until I could figure out how to do switches. But if I can actually figure out how to get these cars to roll on the tracks, it looks like they're attached. From what I can tell, I don't know for sure. They may not be, but it looks like they are. I mean, they're at the right spot. I don't know. It looks like it's a little off the rail, so I'm not too sure if they're on that or not. I'll have to see. They may just be there. So I don't know. I'd like to get something that can actually use the physics of the rail itself and be able to roll on it, which would be nice, because basically then you go around a curve and it uses the physics of the rail stay on. So the physics would come into play as far as speed of the curve, everything. Like, you take it too fast, it's kind of like Derail Valley in a way, but you know, you end up causing more issues. But I don't know. My voice is a little bit gone. My son and I were laughing our ass off all day. Yeah, some nice different buffers. What's that one? Got a little red thing there. So some nice assets. Really nice. I enjoyed that. I was pleasantly surprised to see the track came with it. I was just like, oh, really? Oh, that's a bonus. But that gives me a lot of ideas, even if I can just borrow some of the parts and build my own box cars. It shouldn't take much for me to build a box car, and then, I mean, an engine. I could use, put it this way, with an engine, all I have to do, like I said, I probably won't use a lot of this, but just to give me an idea as to whether or not I can use this as a rigid body physic. And I don't know if it is. I just haven't figured out if it is or not. If it is, it is. If it's not, it's not. It's not a big deal. I'll have to figure that out. It doesn't look like they're on there. I'll have to try that out later and just, borrow it, try it out, see what happens. But I think it's pretty cool. So, not much else to talk about right now other than what's been happening. I get my replacement drone on Friday, so that's good news for sure. We were out today. We didn't do too much. But, usual stuff. It's getting a little late. I might be going to bed. I'm losing my voice already. But I'm really, I mean, where I am, I mean, I think about RTS all the time. I really do. It is an obsession of mine. And like I said, I probably spend more time talking myself out of stuff. I think what I'm probably going to shoot at is, you're looking at the perfect scene right there. It's Port Robinson. And this is what I want to start with. I've always, this is the yard that's closest to my home. I know quite a bit of the operations that go on here. The yard is fairly simple. And it's relatively basic to what goes on in there. I think what I want to do is somehow, if I can get, whether it be primitive assets or something that I can just build from, and then eventually get into some more assets down the road, maybe purchase assets, whatever I have to do, get people who know how to use Blender, for example, so that they can possibly see their creations on a different game engine, and see how it goes from there. But the way I look at what a railroad simulator should be, not just a train simulator. It's not just about, I know I'm not out there to be the best train simulator. I'm not out there to be the best anything, really. I'm just out there to have my vision and get it realized. This is, by the way, where I lost the drone. Just off to the right. I think I said that the other day, but anyways, yeah, I have to rethink a lot of things when it comes to the drone. But we talked a lot about that today. So, yeah, but I want to use that drone as a tool to help me with this, to help me with the research I need, to help me stay safe. Number one, not get too carried away. I didn't think I was getting carried away. Honestly, I wasn't that far off, so it was a shame that I lost it where I lost it, but, shit happens. It was an expensive lesson. So you got to be careful where you're flying over, because you got to be able to recover that drone if you want to. You can get other insurance things for it. But anyways, I don't want to talk about the drone. I don't have the drone until next Friday. We talked a lot about the simulator today, and like I see that asset pack, and I see those bogies, and how I do the curvature of the rail, I'm not sure. That's something I'll have to figure out. I'll have to figure out how I do the frogs, how I would do different things. I don't know these things. I really don't. It's totally new for me. But just to get something, an asset like that, just a test asset to put out there that is capable of rolling along the rail, hopefully, and by its own force, maybe I can see the wheels would be spinning as well, because it would be rolling along its axis or whatever, and see how that goes, and then start playing with different force effects, like different power, and add some weight to the cars and stuff like that, and maybe toy around with air brakes and stuff like that. I don't want to spend too much time on the physics side of railroading. I'm not after a train simulator. Do I want the physics to be realistic? Absolutely. Do I need them to be a perfect train simulator? No. RTS has always been, for me, my vision's always been about being a railroad transportation simulator. So what I'm looking at doing is encompassing the whole operations. Everything that comes down from the dispatching, being able to be the yard master, being able to coordinate with interchanges, car control, logistics, everything. And then have the friggin' thing actually execute and basically run on its own. It may not be perfect as far as the AI. It doesn't need to be perfect. All it has to be able is to be able to work its way out of common situations within certain parameters, and the humans can be smarter than the AI, and that's fine. I'm not looking for it's not about beating the AI. The AI is not going to be super intelligent. It's going to be able to do what it needs to do to continue to run at as efficient as it can possibly be. And that's the whole goal. I want the operation to be continuous. I want it to change every time I come. If I'm coming in and I'm running something, I want to be able to go back to it and be there. The other thing too is, I look at the beauty of the scenes and all that other stuff, and it's like, yeah, that's nice and all. The eye candy's awesome, but it's not all about the eye candy. The eye candy can be a journey. I just want to get it. When you build a model railroad, I could build a model railroad if it has a good operation on plywood. If it has a good operation, I could get a Tyco train set. Doesn't have to be, great kits or anything like that. Put them down with just some engine. Doesn't even have to have the KD couplers. Just have something to start with, and figure out an operation. Or you need the KD couplers probably to do proper switching, but hey, okay, that's fine. So at a basic level, let's say, and some of you not in model railroad, like, what the hell's a KD coupler? Okay, when you buy quote unquote train sets, when way back in the day, when you're a kid, they come in these horn hook couplers. The KD couplers look more like the ones you were seeing in the model. They have they have what represents what looks like the air hose that goes down, and what that does is allow like there's a magnetic release on it, so that you can get it. It's magnetic, which allows magnetic uncoupling that can automatically uncouple if you want that. But it also just allows you to take like a pin or whatever to go in the middle and uncouple the cars without ever taking the car off the track. And that's the basics of operating a model railroad efficiently, is to be able to just go in there and use a not like a toothpick, it's like a long pick that goes in there and just it just goes in and gets in between the couplers, and boom, the cars, open up. I can't explain it any more than that. It's just an operation thing. So that allows you to start the basics of running. And I mean, you can be on brass track. It don't matter. Whatever the case may be, it doesn't have to be perfect. And the operation starts at that point. For me, that's all I want. I'm not worried about the grades. I'm not worried about all these other things. Now, here's the difference between if I was to do it in something like well, first of all, I can't do it in Run 8. Run 8, Run 8 is a closed system for what they've got. It's a great train simulator. It doesn't fit my needs, my overall needs. I was, I didn't say I was missing something for years, but there was always something I felt that I could do more with. And I got a really, really good taste, and for a while it was really nice and it filled me up. But there was always something more that I wanted, that I felt a train simulator or a railroad simulator could be. Because I had something from various things. Like, for example, I remember the time where I was just looking at Dispatcher, and I mean, the last Dispatcher thing that came out, I can't remember the guy who did it, but he had a more realistic dispatcher. I mean, external dispatcher's great. Not necessarily prototypical, but it wasn't meant to be. The dispatcher that came with Run 8, basic, did what it had to do. Difficult to manage in high traffic situations, but it was able to do what it had to do, so that's all that mattered. But I wanted something that could go in and just run, not like a railroad, basically how Run 8 did it, except I wanted to be able to go in and be a lot more a part of the railroad, if that makes sense. I wanted to be part of the operations. I wanted to be part of something that felt bigger than just the scene that you were part of, if that makes sense. And it's probably not making sense, and I can't put the words to it to explain. Some of there's so many different things that I can get into as far as how I saw it. It has nothing to do with the guys at Run 8. They're doing their vision. You can come up with ideas and all kinds of things. So the dispatcher was one of those things. I thought to myself, yeah, well, the dispatcher would be cool, but you really needed an AI dispatcher. You needed somebody that could act as that guy in the part of the operation. This is where it comes into a railroad simulator, because then you get all the elements that are coming in that make a railroad run. Well, what makes an operation? What are the key elements when you're in a model railroad? What are part of the operations? You have yard masters, you have dispatchers. Now you might say, well, yeah, well, in multiplayer you can do all that. And that's true. You can. And that's where Run 8 was always geared towards. It was geared towards the model. It was geared towards the multiplayer aspect that was going to be able to run it all. The thing that I started losing, it became more and more obvious that it was going to be more difficult, was how Run 8 multiplayer was coordinating most of its power into a select couple of servers. And you needed to satisfy everybody in order to get the most people on your servers. And if you didn't, if you couldn't satisfy, they're not going to stay around. They wanted to be where all the action was. Most people just wanted the action. Most people could care less about all the aspects of railroads. They just wanted to run the train and see something, or whatever. I got bored of that a long, long time ago. Seeing trains pass by, like 12 car types, it's like, okay, that's cool. Where's the operation? Where's, and especially when all those trains were just meaningless AI trains that just ran back and forth, that you could never really be part of the, you just didn't have the time to bring it all in. So I start from the basics. What I want to do is I want to start with Port Robinson Yard. That's the hub for Niagara. It's not the busiest corridor. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be. All it has to be is something I'm familiar with, something I could model properly. And what I do from there is I don't worry about the scenery. I don't even worry too much about the assets so much. I am looking at the assets to try to just get it in there, because otherwise what's going to happen is you create objects that are what do you call them? Placeholders. Well, the placeholders really could look ugly as hell. I mean, yeah, I can make a brick look like a freaking engine, but is that really what I want to do? No. I want to have a real looking car. So at least I got this asset kit now where I can have the trucks, and if they work on those tracks that are there, that's a start. Then I can, from there, hopefully figure out how to do tracks. Maybe I can do my own tracks, figure out how to do that, and figure out how to do the curves, the switches, you name it. There's a lot of learning there, but at least if I can get that far, and if I can get the switches in, and if I can get the curves in, and the physics are already built into Unity. The physics I need are simple: gravity, weight, distribution, and basically from there dealing with the different forces. I mean, there's even I believe there's wind resistance. There's all kinds of things that can go into Unity. You can get into wind resistance. You can get into all kinds of things. All you have to do is add a force. You have one force that pushes towards another, and boom. All of a sudden you have something. You can have a sailboat simulator in Unity. It doesn't really matter. I've seen wave simulations. I've seen waters going over, like literally creating a landscape and then just dropping this. I was looking at this earlier tonight, dropping this puddle of water that just comes down a mountain, and it literally finds its way down. It is the coolest thing I've seen, and this is years old. I'm thinking to myself, oh man, because that gets me off on some of the things I can do besides railroads, but my heart's in the railroads. They always have been. That's where my heart lies. So if that's where my heart lies, and I don't know why, I have no idea why. There's much more to life than railroads, but for whatever reason, that seems to be the passion, and I can't explain it. I don't know what it is about it, but it's always been part of what I enjoy, and logistics in general, and transportation in general, and I mean, a lot of cool stuff out there. But I know I'm rambling right now, probably getting tired, but so for me, just having the logistics in there, that and it's hard to explain, because I don't want to go into massive details about something or timelines, because we're still a long ways off. I've got to get something that allows me to create, and then from there be able to build, through tiny steps. Once I start seeing some of the assets and the track starts coming up, and I'm able to do things and operate it with and have fun with it, that's when I'm going to get more motivated to do more. That's exactly what happened the last time with Run 8. It was the ability to go in when I was in the Run 8 beta. It was the ability for me to quickly learn how to use the file system to create my own trains and to program them in. It didn't take me long to figure that out because I was motivated. Because all of a sudden here I had the game engine, I had the train simulator was all there. It did everything that I needed it to do. Now all I had to do was have something that picked the cars, created the waybills, did whatever it had to do, load, create as far as loads, empties, whatever, and just do it. And I had full trains with proper loads and weights and all kinds of neat stuff and tags. They were all part of it, and that was the Run 8 beta. That was the RTS beta and Run 8. And this time around, it's eventually, I think you come to a point where you want to do it yourself because there's so much more that you want to do, and waiting for somebody else to program something or to bring something that may never get back to where you once had it at your prime, it's insanity. So they have to do their thing. They have their challenges and whatever. For me, I realized well over a year ago, if not 2 years now, that it was time for me to explore beyond Run 8. I had to. So I started looking at different things. I started looking at different ways. I went through periods where I wasn't too sure what the hell I was going to do. It was tough. But I do have a fairly clear vision as to what I want. The dispatch board, that was a start. I was going to do it simple. And I wanted to do something simple because I know in the past I've done TD3, and I thought, well, let me do a CTC machine. And I was doing it, and I was starting it, and I hadn't got very far, and I wasn't motivated for some reason. And I wasn't too sure why, and I think it was because it was limited to what I could do, because I was basically in an office. Well, I'm in an office, I get to move around in a warehouse at work, but I wanted to get beyond that. I wanted to get beyond looking at a panel with lights and that makes a sound like ding and knowing the trains are there. I think it was a lot different doing a train dispatcher simulation before Run 8. Because then it was like, okay, well, what's the next level? And before Run 8 came along, the next level was for me to get multiplayer, was to connect with other desks and do all kinds of other things. And I actually started getting, with a few guys. One went on, to be very prominent in Run 8. The other guy, you had Michael Phillips. He's on. Whatchamacallit server, the depot. He's been on there. I think he's been on dams. So we ran with Michael Phillips and Rob Ball. Ball was over in Niagara Falls, New York, or Niagara. I think it was from Niagara Falls, New York. Maybe Buffalo, but he did the whole Buffalo terminal NG. So I decided to do an accompanying layout NI, and we linked them together. And we were able to, I think we did another desk, and we were able to link the trains together so that the Toronto or the CN and CP traffic can go back and forth, and connect with so we added these little multiplayer things. It was really strange, but it worked. So I was already searching even back then. I was already, and I forgot about that. You forget about these things until you start living it again, and you start visioning what it's going to be like, and it's just like, wait a minute. I had so much more when I had Run 8. I had years of entertainment, and I had as good as it could get in virtual railroading. It was the best. There's nothing like it. There is nothing else like it, and there's nothing else out there that can touch it. Quite frankly, I mean, yeah, I had fun with trains. I'll get to that in a second. So so that's Run 8, okay. When I came back into this, I knew I had to step away from Run 8. I stepped into trains. And the reason why I stepped into trains was I thought that I could use some of what trains had to offer and then develop my own systems and work within trains. But then I noticed I liked route building, and so then all of a sudden I got this idea, well, wait a minute, I can build a route, I can build Niagara. Even though there was a bunch of Niagaras already out there, but then I thought, oh wow. And then I started getting into the DEM stuff. I started getting into all kinds of crazy stuff. And I was getting close. I was getting the signals down the track. Actually, it was better before I got into DEM, because at least then I was creating progress. What happened was, once I got into the DEM stuff, suddenly one of the things that happens, I guess and this happens a lot of times with anything that has an editor. When you have an editor and you go in and you start changing things around, and you're in the middle of basically playing your route, or basically using your world, which I was. At the time, I was starting to do test runs and stuff like that, but then I was starting to change things. What ends up happening is your saves get totally corrupted. And it's not, all you have to do is change one aspect somewhere over on the other side, and it just corrupts everything. It's really weird. You've got to be careful with transdem and a few other those things. If you basically, it's like, okay, don't make any they said don't make any modifications to your world until you're absolutely sure. Because once you've done it, it's hard to get it back. I'm like, okay, well, yeah. And then it's like, you need that terrain underneath before you can start placing the assets. You can't just place the assets first and then just kind of, the terrain moves them up. Well, here's the difference. I got tired of that. I got tired of trying to, I wasn't certain. I wasn't certain of what the heights were. But all I knew was, I wasn't too worried about that right now, but I knew at some time it would bug me, and sometime I knew I would have to tweak it. It would get to me. Because I would want to have it right, even though nobody outside of Niagara, or even some people in Niagara, would even notice a difference. I knew it. I knew what the difference was, and I guess it was that perfectionist side of me. I didn't want that. So that bugged me. It eventually discouraged me to the point where I stopped doing it. I just got away from it. I was just like, whoa. I mean, this is cool, and I'm close, but it's not quite there. And I had the vision, but then I started thinking of some of the assets and just like how to bring the assets in. It was very, for me, it was confusing how to bring all these assets in. I was just like, okay, well, how do I bring all these assets in? I'm kind of having the same issue with Unity in a way. It's a large learning curve, but the information's still there, and at least you have some assets, and if you can get through Blender, which I really haven't been able to get through Blender yet, but if I ever do, then I have pretty much easy to do anything. So you're already, for me, I'm already in the editor because I'm in the world editor as it is. the world is my oyster, so to speak. I'm in the editor. I can do whatever I want. I can change whatever I want. I can have the program behave however it's supposed to with the world save file. I can have it ignore the Z, the XY, whatever. I can make whatever save file work with whatever new changes I make. It doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter at that point. I can make it work because I know how the save file works. I know how my world works. I know how every little element works. So I have control. You see what I mean? And this is why there's certain programs that get very technical with physics, and they get really technical with multiplayer and location of assets and how the physics run and all this other things. A lot of people get on to Run8's case about, oh yeah, you don't have the editors and blah blah blah. And I mean, even because yeah, I'll admit, I mean, I thought they said they were going to open up the editors. I still believe that to this day that they did say that. I know there was a kit at one time, but being a developer, I know it's easier said than done. It's not so much that you're having them available, it's that when you have so much technicality built in, it's so easy, and then suddenly you're debugging issues because people are doing this to the editor or whatever, and it's just a mess. So no, I'm not interested in having editors for my stuff. At least not yet. And honestly, I don't know if I ever will. And that's okay. Would I be interested in having collaborators? Would I be interested in having third-party development that I can, share as different as far as be able to take the assets that they do, bring them in. They can develop their worlds in Unity. I can collaborate with them, bring it in, have it compatible with my software, bring it right into the program, and make it part of an add-on. Yes, I got no problems there. And and to teach others and to trust others enough with the code that I can have not just myself but others looking for other talent out there. I don't want to just keep it, in-house, and it's not about the money. It's not about keeping all the profits and all the revenue sources. There's a lot of talented people out there. There's a lot of people who know how to make 3D assets. There's a lot of people who know how to do scenery well. It's not about that. So, like, my whole vision is, here I am, I'm going up to Port Robinson, and I'm meeting with, we're having our pre-briefing before we get on duty. 3-man crew plus the yard masters in the office, and they're going over what everything as far as what the current situation is, what the game plan for today is, what train's coming in when, blah blah blah, all the other things, what we're going to be building first, what we're going to be doing next, all this other stuff. Go over any changes to global operating bulletins or whatever. I mean, try to keep it as real as it can get. And then you take the cab ride down. In Port Robinson, the yardmaster drives them down. They get into a CN truck. Say if they're over at the other end of the yard or whatever, and if the engine's at the thing, well, they just hop into the engine, and the yardmaster might go to the tail end of the train and drop off drive down the end of the yard, drop off the third member of the crew, conductor, whatever, and that's all. They switch their train from the one end, and that's it, and they start working on their train. Inbound trains come in the morning, and at night, outbounds leave both ways. And it's just taking apart trains, and it's the epicenter for Niagara, and everything leads to that. Then from there, later on, I get into the main lines. Later on, I get into the height maps. Later on, I get into the scenery. Later on, I get into signals and all the other stuff. But to start out, I start with the basics. I start out to make sure that the assets move correctly, that the physics are good enough. That the yard's working the way it should, the switches are working the way it should. Then I have all the components of the AI, being able to go in, have everything happen as it should in operation. There's going to be AI control like right from the get-go. If you're single player, I mean, don't get me wrong. I have no problems going multiplayer, and I have total ideas of having multiplayer. I want full multiplayer, but by all means, I want single player too. And most of all, I want AI to work in unison with multiplayer. So what happens? Well, you have a server. Doesn't matter how big your server is, doesn't matter how many people, how popular are, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. What matters is if you're going to host, pardon me, if you're going to host a server, and I'm losing my voice now. Okay, just give me a second here. I need a drink. I'll go to the chat for 1 minute. I'm going to end this by 1 a.m. Nobody's here. Everybody's sleeping. I'm the only nut that's still up. Be right back. Sorry about that. My voice could not last. That's what happens when I start talking. I'm going on a freaking rampage here. Okay. We're going to stop this at the 1 hour mark, so I got about 15 minutes to continue my spiel. Where was my train of thought? So, no pun intended. Yeah, so, what was I getting at? So multiplayer, definitely. But this isn't going to matter, and this was the shortcoming for me for Run 8. Was all those little servers that didn't stand a chance. They were okay back in the time when they were small. And I don't mean to say Run 8. Run 8, I can't compare Run 8. I can't avoid comparing Run 8 because Run 8 is the best. And I'm not out to be a better Run 8. I'm out to be me. I'm out to be RTS. And it's going to take a while to even come close to Vision because I'm one guy. It's just me. I'm the only one. I don't have artists on board. I don't have a programming team. I'm not that experienced as it is. As much as I have old school programming, I'm a dinosaur. I'm not big on programming. So what am I going to do? I don't like having to depend on others. And we're in this micro niche. That's the problem with our hobby. We're in this micro niche. I've always said that. So if we're in this micro niche, we don't have, this isn't like, flight simulators where everybody likes to fly. That's different between flight simulators and train simulators and racing games, flight simulators, or even more like racing games and shoot 'em up games and all that other crap. where there's tons of them. Even survival games has a huge or however you pronounce that, compared to train simulations. You know, train people who like trains are weirdos. We're all weirdos to most of the public. You know, I'm at a railway crossing, you know, and I'm sitting there waiting for a train, and you know, people are driving by and they're looking at you like, oh, you know, is he a terrorist? I don't know, but it's like they just give you these. It's like, oh, I wonder why he's sitting there. Oh, yeah, you know, and I'd be a rail fan. So, yeah. Are you bird watching? No, not bird watching, because I'm in Bayview. Anyways, I'm getting off on a tangent. Let me get back to the reality here. So, oh boy. Sorry about that. Just needed a nice good gulp here. All right. Let's see if I'm well lubricated for the last 10 minutes. So let me get right down to it. So multiplayer, yes. I want to have the multiplayer. However, I want, whether you're in multiplayer, whether you have 2 friends, 4 friends, a group of 30, it doesn't matter, or whether you're single player. You're all going to have the same opportunity. You're going to have all the same parameters. You're going to have, I mean, it's going to be based out of Niagara. It's not going to appeal to everybody. But what's California appealing to everybody? Yes, you're part of a, you know, huge tier 1. But remember back in the day when Run 8 started, you were talking about Tehachapi, and Tehachapi was very popular as it was a good place to start because everybody knew what Tehachapi Loop was. But it's not the busiest line. Needle Sub is. This was the Northern Transcon. So, you had a fair amount of traffic. Niagara's not going to have that. Niagara may have a tenth of that. If you were to go further into Bayview, you might come in around 25%. Close to 50 at its prime, possibly. But you're not. Canada is not as busy as the United States. We're just not. We tend to be. I mean, that last image there was close to the border at Queenston Heights. So in Canada, majority of the population resides close to our southern border with the United States. Yes, you can go further north. There's a lot of areas. There's a lot of nice areas. Cities like Edmonton are, you know, fairly far north that are in the prairies. Fair ways north of Calgary, where the Transcon for CN runs through. But for the most part, stay along the St. Lawrence River. We are part of the Great Lakes system. We have access to 4 of the 5 Great Lakes. And we have this massive amount of natural resources to the north. But, you know, whether it's food production, lumber, massive amounts of water, wetlands, like grain, agriculture in the prairies. There's all kinds. We export a lot of grain. We are also petroleum based. So we have oil out west. We have plants, we do a lot of business with the United States and other countries, including China, but primarily we, I mean, you look at these trains, these tank trains that go through here, Canada and all that stuff. I mean, it's not all petroleum based, although those look like placards that would be. I'm getting I'm getting on it's 12:55. I want to end this. So, anyways, that's just the way it is. It's not as busy. So let's put that aside. I want the multiplayer. Yes, it'll come eventually once I figure it out. My goal is to worry about single player first and build it in such a way that that single player experience is going to be at good as or better, to feel like you are part, you can take on any position within the railroad and you are part of a living, breathing railroad. So you could be the yard master, you can be a conductor, you can be the third person on the crew, whatever they call them. I don't know if utility conductors, switcher helper, whatever. I don't know. I know conductors and engineers. I always, firemen, I guess, used to be the other term, but I don't even know if they still use that term or not. But you can step into any of those roles. If you want to be a dispatcher, you can be a dispatcher. If you want to just go through them and make up your trains and then switch from one position to the other, here's the thing: comparison to Run 8 again. So let's say you're in single player mode and you're trying to switch a train. You can save your positions. Saving positions are always cool. And here's the thing: if you're saving your position and you go back to running your engineer, that guy who's in that position now isn't doing what he's supposed to be doing, because he's a saved location in space that you can just basically teleport to. So you go through that saved coordinate and boom, you're back there, so you can throw the switches or do whatever and pretend you're the conductor, then pretend you're the engineer and do all as quick as you can. But he's not back there doing things, and while you're back there throwing the switch while the train's going up, yeah, you can control the train up, but you're not honking at crossings, you're not seeing how far you can move ahead, or you can't do both. Yes, you can multitask to a certain degree, but at a certain point, let's say for example you're in the conductor's position and you're moving ahead 20 cars, and you've got grade crossings, you got signals coming ahead, you got all kinds of things while you're switching out a bunch of cars at the other end. Well, you save your position, you go there, or you use the counter. That's the other thing. The counter doesn't automatically update just because the size of the train updates. That's not how it works in the real world. We say as real as it gets, and I'm not trying to mock them, but I'm just saying that's not how it works. Those counters don't automatically know how long your trains are. They just don't. That's called a switch list. And the switch list will tell you how long your train is. The manifest will tell you how long your train is. That's what you input into those. You input the length. You input it into the computer. So that's what gets put in to the end of train calculator. When you're connecting to the EOT, it just doesn't magically appear. You have to enter the code of the EOT transponder in order to get it. Then you have to acquire it. I listen to them do it all the time. You're supposed to do brake tests. EOT goes nuts, blah, 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 blah. The telemetry goes through. You're finally seeing the pressure come down as you're adding air to the pipe. Boom. Those are the things that I witness personally just as a rail fan. I hear them talk about it all the time over the scanner. All you have to do is hang around a yard long enough, you'll start hearing these things. You'll start understanding the operations of how a yard's working. Port Robinson, I have a pretty good idea of. I don't know everything there is. I'm still learning stuff about Niagara all the time. But we're building up quite a bit of knowledge, and even if we don't have all the knowledge in the world, that doesn't matter. It's still more realistic that way, because now I'm bringing my knowledge and experience as a rail fan. And here's the thing, I still know people who have worked the job. I have access to a retired engineer who worked the Stanford sub, who happens to be my son's cousin. I can go back to him anytime. I have access to people. I have access to former RTCs in Toronto. If I want to reach out to them and ask them and pick their brain, I can do it. I also have a good rapport with the crews in Niagara. So, I met somebody the other day with CP before my drone crash. I was hoping to provide some videos to him. It didn't work. Didn't work out that way because I lost my drone that day, or the next day, I should say. But I try to have a good rapport with the crews. I try to stay out of their way. I try not to bug them. They're busy doing a job. They don't need some foamer to come around, getting in their way while they're trying to do work. They got a tough, busy job. It's not an easy life. We just admire them and want to do the fun things, the things that you like about railroads. I don't want to have the added stress. I'm not simulating the stress of it. The managed stress and the fun stress maybe, but that's it. I don't want to go any further than that. I don't want to go into the stress of grade crossing accidents and derailments and all that other crap. Am I going to simulate derailments? Yes. Am I going to simulate carnage? No. That's not what it's about. When I say I'm going to simulate derailments, what I mean by that is you put a car on the ground, guess what? You're done. Your track is tied up. You're going to have to re-rail that thing in a yard. It makes things a lot more fun and dynamic. The AI has to respond to that. Okay, so what did you do? Did you lose the ladder? Do you all of a sudden have a buildup of traffic on both sides that have to be brought in once everything's back online? Do you have access to an industry where all of a sudden now you have all these cars coming in and you need to either hold back in yards down the line or stuff like that? All these things I'm going to put into play. You lose your main line, are you going to have to set up detours? I don't know. Now I'm starting with Port Robinson. Those other little visions, they go down the line. I'm not worried about it. And the reason why I'm not worried about also talking onto a YouTube channel with 500 subscribers is, number one, let's get real here. 500 people aren't going to watch this video. I'd be lucky to get, I don't know, 30, 40 views. Because I'll tell you right now, and Scott said it the most, people don't care about yep. Some people do, which is why I do it, and others, it just kind of reinforces and kind of is self-motivating, I guess. To get my thoughts out in the open and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm all excited. This is why I go on to YouTube. When I'm excited about something, I come across something that's just like, hey, this is cool. I'm still here. I'm still doing RTS. I'm not done. And it's not to convince me. I'm not trying to convince myself. I'm already convinced. Trust me. No, you don't have to trust me. I could care less. But the good part about it is, I've never made a cent. So, for me, it doesn't matter if I quit tomorrow. It's not going to hurt me. It's not going to hurt anybody else. They're just going to go on and do other things. Yes, I know people want to see the end result. I get it. Trust me. I want to badly get the end result. I've tried different things. I'm going into different I've tried different game engines, I've tried different games, I've tried different ways of figuring out how to simulate or just do it. The real thing is, I've just come to the conclusion that the only way I'm going to have to do it is find a game engine, which I did. I think Unity's a good candidate. I still have a lot to learn, but it allows me to, at the very least, the Blender is going to be the next one, or get somebody who knows how to make assets, and I know some people who know how to make assets. I look at a bridge like this. It's like, yeah, that's a nice asset. Love to have something like that, but if not, then well, I guess I'm going to have to do it myself, because like I said, I don't have artists. I don't have all these other people. It's going to take much longer. You think you're waiting for something else? You're going to have a long wait with me. It's not going to be. And before I was gonna do it half-ass. I honestly was going to do everything half-ass. I was going to do it where it was just a 2D little fun simulator and boom, 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 and yeah. And people actually talked me out of it. I wasn't the only one that talked myself out of it, because it was actual people that were commenting and saying, the only people are going to be, nobody's interested in that. They need a bigger territory, and they're right. The difference about doing this in Niagara is you've got more than just the territory, and you have the elements, all the elements that go into the railroad that are working. So you have a living, breathing railroad that you're a part of, that you can join in at any time, or you can fast forward and skip ahead, and the AI will figure out everything that's going on, all the car movements, all the new cars that are coming in. You wanna work this train at this amount of time, and you wanna jump ahead into time, or just save it and not run it, and load it back up the next day and start off where you were the day before. That's fine too. You can run it however you want. If you want to run it 24/7, you can run it 24/7, because there will be an AI that will be able to run it 24/7. And if it has multiplayer, which eventually it will, either the AI is going to continue to run, or the players will be able to come in and take over for the AI. And I assure you, the players will be smarter than the AI. At least most of them. Because I don't need the AI to be super intelligent. I don't need the AI to take up massive resources. All I need the AI to do is simple decisions based on different parameters, based on certain logic functions that are running continuously to make sure that trains are running, trains are being switched, yard plans are going into action. The AI is trying its best to cope with running the railroad, and they're not the best at doing it. That's what you humans are there for. You're not as smart as the AI yet. Maybe I get it, the AI becomes smarter. I doubt it, because there's always going to be that human intuition, and this AI is not going to be as powerful as that. Nobody's going to have a powerful enough system with the PCs or whatever to be able to do that. It's just not happening. So I'm not looking to build a supercomputer AI. I'm looking to have an AI that just keeps the traffic moving, keeps everything flowing, and then you come in and you're part of the railroad, and you do whatever you want as part of that railroad. If you feel like running a train that day, that's fine. You get into a train like this one here. You're heading to the States. You're going to meet you'll meet the Wabash. The Wabash is going to be up. Well, you might have a CP. You might have coming up to Robbins, and I forget this day how this went, but the evenings start picking up, and you have CP at Wabash coming up to Robbins meeting you, or CP going, and then you got the Wabash. The other day CP was being held back for a long time while the Wabash and 531 here was tying up Fort Erie. Today, for some stupid reason, I don't know what happened. There was no trains anywhere. We just don't know what the hell happened. We went down to Fort Erie, and and this one was 562. Was 562? Yeah, 562 coming back. I forget which. I think this guy came from Trillium. This is at Cambridge there. This is the first siding, the beginning of double track going in towards Port Robinson. So you see the drone, it becomes very useful for this thing, because what the drone's done is it's only got me closer to places that I just can't get railfan. I mean, obviously I can get railfan this, no big deal, but to go into certain places and to feel part of it, or to feel or see the bigger picture, and to not just sit on the side that you don't access a yard, but actually be up there and watching the yard operation. I took a lot of imagery. Unfortunately, I lost that. I was seeing the rail operations in action. And those are the kind of things. And yeah, I know it's 10 after 1. I need to go to bed. But yeah, it's just you can tell I'm really excited about it. I still am. The excitement's never died. Did I lose the enthusiasm for doing what I was doing? I was trying to dispatcher. I was trying this. I try things all the time. And I'm not really not. It's not a failure. I mean, I can go back to dispatcher anytime. It's not a failure. I can go back to that anytime. Just like I can go back to trains. Hell, I can go back to running if I really wanted to. I'm not going to. I mean, my first step would go back to dispatcher. The reason why I like this one is I already have my my sandbox. It's called Unity. All I have to do is create a project. I have a bunch of them already. I create the project, and you saw one of the projects that was in here. This is a project window. This is the RTS project window right now. You should be able to see the name, Railroad Transportation Simulator. That's one of the projects. That's one of the various scenes. I had other ones in there. Dispatcher was a different project name, but so you go into it and you go into that and maximize on play. I want to see full screen. Where's the full screen? Scene, no, game. What is it doing? Hold on for what? Okay. So I guess that's full screen. Yeah, I don't have any other controls, so that's it. Yeah. Anyways, it's kind of weird with all the other controls. I can easily, have the controls built in, or have buttons that would start moving the cars around and stuff like that. But it doesn't take much to do that. I'm ready to do that. Fine. It's not rocket science to get those trains to move. But trust me, it don't take much code to make that happen. But yeah, it is what it is. But having that open area allows me to slowly build in the assets. So I don't need to be an asset genius. All I have to do is download a few assets like that on the store, which, the asset store, totally free. I'm allowed to put them in. They can act as what do you call those, templates or stand-ins. There's a word in it, but I'm losing my mind. It's getting too late. But they can act as placeholders. That's the word I was looking for. So you can have various placeholders, and then you're able to start coding. And once you start coding, and you're playing around with them, like I can run trains of flat cars if I really want to, but by then I would start using some of those objects into my own designs. I could probably get, at the very least, I could probably get the box cars and the auto parts cars going. Tanks probably wouldn't take too much to get them going. They would be fairly primitive, but at least they would get going. Curves, I have no idea how I would do that yet. That's that's going to be a fun one. But once I figure it out, once I figure out how to manipulate it and get that going, then that'll be fine. And who knows? Maybe there's a way to bend the acid. I don't think there is, but not that I know of. But I think that's something I have to do before I create the asset itself, before I bring it in, to get it to run at a certain radius and tangent, sort of like radius track or whatever you build the track to place. It's different than putting the rail down and fitting it into the curve, because you know how rail's flexible, like these big metal pieces. You get this giant machinery that just bends it into place, and the sleepers are all in line where you want them. That'd be really cool if I can put a spline in there. I don't know if I can or not. That would be totally cool to have a spline like you have in. If I can get a spline, I'll have to look into that. I don't know if you can or not, but it's not a big deal. I'm not too worried about the spline at the moment. Actually, I just want to get the I want to get a few of those objects in, test out, put a mock engine in there, and actually, if I want, I could probably download a Russian engine. I don't know if it has the same coupler. I don't know if it runs on the same track, but download that in and play with a Russian engine with those flat cars, because there's another Russian engine I can get for free. And then suddenly I have I can easily switch a train about. Well, I can't switch a train about because I don't have access to those other tracks. But at the very least, I can move it around and test various weights, couple up to other cars, and uncouple parameters, and try to have the conductors walk around, have have conductor assets. They'll probably look like guys, who knows, dressed up as I don't know. They're not going to look like conductors, put it that way. I know that for sure. I don't have those assets yet, but that's the way. That's my vision for RTS. It always has been, and it's getting stronger. It's not getting weaker. So I see a path how I can do it now. I've already taken that path, or taken the dive into Unity. I like it. I lost my interest a tiny bit over the last week or so, but I want to get back into that again. My time, like I said, my time lately, I haven't had as much. Yeah, I could spend the time. I'm doing rambling for this past hour. I should go to bed, but I haven't been able to do it. I can't do anything when my son's around. He falls asleep while watching me play around with this. So, but once I have stuff in there, I think he'll be more interested. But for now, he says he's more interested in the code than the placing of all the assets and stuff, which is really weird. But I'll show him this anyways. See if we can get him excited again. He's excited for it. It's just he doesn't want to go through all the stuff. Anyways, okay, I gotta stop talking. I need to go to bed. So have a good one, guys. Hope you enjoy that. Like, subscribe, give me some comments, tell me what you think. Anyways, talk to you later. See ya.